How's it going, everybody? Graydon here from Last Pack Magic Channel. Give us a like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. We've got a guest today. We got the Juggernaut collector in the house. Ryan, what's going on?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Really, really good. And always love having a character collector of a villain on. I'm a villain collector myself, so I'm
Yeah, yeah,
pumped to talk about this collection and see some of this collection.
yeah. I got some stuff here to show off today. Yeah, we can talk about our journeys here as villain collectors.
I love it. So, I mean, people know, but let us know who you collected.
I collect Juggernaut. I've collected Juggernaut for a long time. Has a lot of personal meaning to me. It's my favorite character in any of the Marvel series, and I've been doing it since my very first PSA grade came back. So
I kind of don't like when people ask me why I collect Sabretooth. So why do you collect Juggernaut?
oh man, that's a loaded question. So I guess the best way to answer that would be to start at the very beginning. I was born in 1990, and my father was a stern, burly military man. He was, textbook military guy. He was very, very big into the Arnold Schwarzenegger era of bodybuilding.
Cool.
I was really young, and I always like have like this. Whenever you're little, you kind of like remember things a certain way. But I just always remember my dad just being massive. Just was working out all the time. As soon as he got home from work, put on. He's just a big, bulky guy. And my dad had an affinity for the X-Men. He wasn't a comic book collector. He wasn't like a hardcore enthusiast per se, but he really enjoyed the X-Men specifically over anything else Marvel related. And he would buy me those the Uncanny Toy Biz action figures, from the early '90s and stuff like that. I had several of those. I might even. I mean, I had a bin full, honestly. So I might have even had all of them. I don't really know. I never really looked too much further into it, but I always, whenever I played with those, associated the Juggernaut due to his physique with my
Cool.
father.
I love that.
Over time, as I got a little bit older and stuff, I was able to kind of like piece together, for myself that Wolverine, Cyclops, etc., were more of the main characters of the X-Men. But for me, for what I was doing, the way that I played and stuff like that, the Juggernaut was always my main guy because I always envisioned that being my dad.
I love that. It's so interesting that your dad was into the bodybuilding thing and had an affinity for X-Men because Julie Bell and Boris, a lot of that art was based on models that were bodybuilders.
Okay, well, it makes sense. I mean, like a lot of the
Right?
the supernatural physique almost seems like for a lot of the art. So
Exactly. So a lot of those references were of bodybuilders. So it's so interesting to hear your origin story about it because it just all those facts line up, right?
yeah. No, that's a good. That's good. I didn't know that, but I mean, it checks out. It makes sense. So
So Juggernaut's not a mutant.
correct. Well, yeah, correct. Yeah, he's just a normal guy, Kane Marco, until he gets that Crimson Gem,
Yeah.
and then he becomes the unstoppable human Juggernaut.
And he is Charles Xavier's stepbrother.
Correct. That's right. Yep. Yep. And to take that your initial question a little bit further, I didn't really start collecting cards in my childhood. I was exposed to the cards, and we'll talk about that in a minute whenever I show off one of the cards I've got here. But it wasn't until my adult life some things happened, some things took place. My father, after he retired from the military, started working at the post office and slipped a disc in his back. And basically through that process developed a prescription painkiller addiction.
Oh, no.
And that ended up taking his life about 4 or 5 years later. It was a steep descent, steep downhill. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a rough time in my life. And so in a way, my collection is sort of it's an outlet for me for dealing with some of that. It's also kind of like to pay homage. It's a layered process for me. It's a layered thing that has multiple meanings in doing it, for myself, if that makes sense.
I like that. I like that you're willing to. I like that you're willing to go there. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's important, to people may be able to draw parallels to like the intensity of the situation that I dealt with, and then to the level of intensity that I put into my collection as well. It's something that I'm very dedicated to, and it's a very impactful thing that happened in my life that's impacted me in a way that I want to do diligence to him in the way that I collect, if that makes sense. So
well, Juggernaut's an intense character, so why don't we?
That's true. Yeah.
Why don't we open it up with? Could you show us your first Juggernaut card?
I can, yeah, actually, and I'll tell the little story before I show it off. One of the things that I did this I would have been probably about let's see, I would have been 5 years old at the time this set came out. They sold these on my dad's actual naval base, and that's the reason I got
Cool.
exposed to them. Was the 95 Marvel Annual.
Okay.
Was the first card set that I was ever exposed to. My dad would buy me little packs of the cards whenever we'd go to the store because I'd ask for them, or to the base, the shop on the base. And I would open those up, and I would, do that, look through all the characters, etc. And there was a Juggernaut card in that set. As I got older and looked more into the sets or whatever, there was really a few Juggernaut cards in that set. But the ones that I got was just the regular base card. And I liked that card a lot. My dad knew that I liked that character a lot or whatever, so he ended up buying me one of those. I'm sure there's probably a proper name for it, but I know that you're not going to know what I'm talking about. Was the screw down cases in the 90s?
Yeah,
The big ones that were about this big.
Instead of the magnetic one touches.
Correct.
Yeah.
The caveman esque cases, slabs, if you will. But my dad got me one of those, and we put my Juggernaut card in there, and it just sat in there, And I got I don't know, maybe like a couple packs here and there, et cetera, over time. But that one was always like my special card because that was my character, that was my dude or whatever. And after my dad passed away, as I was going through the stuff, his stuff or whatever, I found that card. Years later, after I had, moved out, I was living in college, whenever all this happened. And that was just something that he had still held on to, and that was special to me. It brought back a lot of memories for me. And it was a very, touching moment, if you will, whenever I came across that, and I obviously was like, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to hold on to this, and I was just going to leave it in that, super brick slab. Over time, I'd heard about PSA grading. I'd heard about, the monetary value and things like that from Pokemon is, where I heard that, the PSA 10 Charizard, et cetera, even if you're not really a collector, which I wasn't at the time, you kind of catch wind of stuff like that. And I decided I was going to send it off to PSA. I can't remember exactly when it was, to be honest with you, but it was several years later. And that big old case did its job because that card came back as a PSA 10.
Let's see it.
Yeah, and I've had it reslabbed now, just so for continuity, and everybody's like, "Oh, that doesn't look like an old slab," because I wanted my collection. I'm very particular about the way my collection is displayed, but I've reholdered it. But this is the original card that I had from my childhood.
I love it. So that's the start. That
was the beginning. 1. Yeah, and I will say this: like, I wouldn't have really. It wasn't like this card specifically that really started the. I mean, I guess. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I don't know if I would have really become the collector that I am without this card coming back as a PSA 10.
Interesting.
I'm a person who I outside of collecting, I'm a person that enjoys and appreciates high-end products. I appreciate luxury, high-end experiences. And I thought it was very, very cool. And it did something for my brain whenever that card came back as a 10. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And that started to it planted a seed in my head that grew into obviously a whole forest of collecting now. But my goal was to, or I made it a goal, and what I was going to do, with my collecting was to get every card of the 90s, the vintage Juggernaut cards, in PSA 10.
Cool.
That was my goal. That was my original goal. And I knew modern sets were coming out. I knew, modern sets were getting PMGs, things like that were kind of interesting. But I tried to stay away from that as best I could because I wanted to stick to my plan and stick to my goal.
Gotcha.
My story began in my childhood, began in those vintage days. I was gonna just have my chapter open and closed, in that time frame. But things change. My personality type is one that's very it didn't take too much to twist my arm, I guess you could say. We can get into why I got into the modern stuff here a little bit later on. But yeah, my goal originally was to collect the vintage cards and try to get them all in PSA 10. And I, spent, if you were to go look through some of those pop reports, like for example, one card that I submitted a ton for was the Toy Biz parallel of 1990, but it's actually 1991 because the Toy Biz came out a year later than the original Impel set. That were inside the action figures that I had as a kid. So like the Toy Biz parallel. So like if you were to go through some of those old pop reports, you'll see that there's, there's a lot of Wolverine submissions. There's a lot of, Cyclops, et cetera, et cetera. But Juggernaut is up there with a lot of those, and most of those are because of me.
As you're talking about these cards, you should be showing us.
Oh, I mean, I didn't really pull too much of the vintage stuff. I could pull. Okay, I didn't grab them all because there's just really too many for me to grab out of there. We'd be sitting here all day, but I can kind of go through some of the stuff that I have here, just as kind of a. Come to find out, you know, I slowly learned through my collecting that there was cards older than me that Juggernaut is featured on, and this is a really cool thing. So that if we're starting at the very first thing Juggernaut was featured on that can be PSA graded, I guess you could say is the best way to describe it. This is a 1987 Comic Images Juggernaut sticker.
Cool.
So this is 3 years older than I am, and this is a PSA 10.
Very cool.
Mint condition. So this is the beginning of this is the very first thing sitting in my case, is the very first PSA gradable Juggernaut item. This is the first time he's featured on a sticker or a card. And then there's 2 cards. One of them is the Comic Images Colossal Conflicts from 1987, which I'm having a very, very hard time trying to find a card that's in decent shape, gradable, because the cards were cut so bad. I do have the Wolverine Trivia, which was in 1988 in a PSA 8, which is pretty impressive for that era. That card is a pop like 1 or 2. It's the highest grade of that card. Here's another one that's pretty unique is I have a 1989 Comic Images Excalibur Juggernaut. So this is 1 year older than me. I have this one in a PSA 10.
Nice.
Which is really impressive for that era. And then just some more of the big hitters from that same time frame. 1992 Masterpieces PSA 10, 1994 Fleer Ultra X-Men PSA 10.
I love that card.
Yeah, it's a great card, man. It's a really good looking card. I'm going to be picking up the buyback of this one pretty soon, and then seeing what I can do with that.
So buybacks are a part of your collection as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a master collector, I'm collecting everything. You know, like I said, I can include those buybacks in some of the cards that I'm missing as well. I just picked up the X-Men 2020 of 10 buyback recently, which is a big card to pick up due to the rarity of that card. That one's off at PSA right now, so we'll see how it does. 1990 Todd McFarlane Comic Images PSA 10. Some more vintage stuff, just the classic 1999 Impel Marvel Universe, but you know, the first set PSA 10. Right. Lots of those. Lots of people grade those. Here's the Toy Biz parallel or Toy Biz promo that I was talking about. This card I've submitted, dude. I couldn't tell you how many copies that I've submitted of this, but I've gotten several 9s. I don't know if they really it's like there's one PSA 10 or something like that out there, but they grade these cards so hard because they knew that they were in the action figures,
for sure. They got beat up hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, for a 9, it's still like, it's, I wish that I don't know if I'll ever be able to upgrade that card, which is like sort of like, I guess mildly frustrating for me because like I would like to have all of them in 10, but like I can accept that one being a 9 due to like the history of the card and stuff like that mentally, for my mental fortitude. Here's the Series 1, 1992 PSA 10.
I think that 90s base and inserts are a really important part of a character collection, a complete character collection.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that there's something that are it's an essential item in a character collection. I think that having the original appearance card, and again, I learned all of this stuff from Sketch Card Hive, but having the original appearance and the vintage, calling vintage pre-2000 is incredibly important to a collection before you start talking about the modern stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's just such a good foundation for what was to come.
Absolutely. That's the word I was looking for, was foundation.
Yeah. It just laid such a solid foundation for what we have now. The artwork, the style of the cards back then and stuff. It's just such a important part of where we are now as our hobby. So I think that it's definitely important to highlight and it'd be a part of any character collector's, an essential part of their collection to be there as well. I completely agree with that.
Something I love. There's 2 types of cards that I personally am obsessed with and I love. And one of them is pack pulled autos and the other one is printing plates. Do you have plates that you could show us? Are you willing to show us?
I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Let's see. I actually only have one of my plates over here right now. You want me to go grab those? I have the other ones in there. You want me to grab those? Sorry.
I'd love to see them all.
Sure. Yeah, let me grab them real quick here. So I have 4 plates here with me that I can show today. I have another one off at Beckett right now. I graded my place with Beckett. I could be making this up, but I could have swore that I read an article some time ago that they have a little bit different grading criteria for those. I also like the way that like the submission process for Beckett's a little bit easier than PSA's. So like whenever I get my plates and so that I usually go with them.
My boy Cool Cards would agree with you.
Yeah. I'd say he definitely would. He's a little biased, I would say. So here is the Marble Masterpieces 2020. This is not the what if. This is just the base. Cyan here. I have in a 9 from BGS.
Do you have a color favorite for plates for Juggernaut?
Yeah, black. Yeah, black
okay.
is yeah.
I thought it would be magenta.
No. I think the magenta's okay, but I just prefer the way the blacks look. Whenever it comes to these plays, this is the next one I have here. This one's an 8 from the Masterpieces 2020 set. I also we'll get to that in just a second. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. And I also have the magenta for that card as well.
And see, for me, for Juggernaut, magenta's the color.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. I just, I've just always, I think it's just my personal taste.
Lots of people and lots of black plates really pop, like really pop. I'm not a huge fan of yellow plates, but the yellow saber-tooth plates often look the best.
Okay, yeah, that would make, that would make sense. Like, that would make sense.
It's funny how it works out depending, like as a character collector, like if you're after certain colored plates, it can be really, if you're after Beast, you got to believe that the cyan is going to be the
one that's popping the most. Yeah. That's a fair point. I actually really hadn't thought about that much, but that makes perfect sense. It could actually, like the natural colors of the character could, make the affinity towards those plates even stronger. Yeah, it hasn't happened to me in my case, but that makes perfect sense.
I love printing plates, and I'm really grateful that you're showing us your plates. I like plates are something that it's part of the geography of the card. They're a really important item in my opinion to have in your collection.
Yeah. And moving forward here, this last one I had to show you. This is the 2022 9.5, which is pretty crazy. What if printing plate? I have the black base also off at Beckett right now as well. So I have 2 plates from the. If I'm following Miles' rules of the 2 plates, one for the what if, one for the base, then I would.
That's a monster card. I want to point out that's a monster card to have in your.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I talking about because that was a 9.5, or what do you mean by that specifically?
Having a variant cover printing plate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Having a variant cover printing plate from a modern Masterpieces set is, in my personal opinion, a huge card.
Okay, interesting. Okay. I also would be. I actually have found where one of the variant printing plates is for 2020, so I'll be picking that up pretty soon. So I'll have right now. I currently do not have a variant or a what if I should say printing plate for Masterpieces 2020.
That is the right term. The what if.
Yeah, the what if. So at some point here soon, I'll be picking that up. which will make my.
Ryan, I'm not even making this up. Your cat is in your stand in the back.
Oh, I see her. I see her back there. Yeah. I'll go close the door real quick so she doesn't knock. All right. So,
what else you got to show?
I see here. So obviously one of the big sets was for Juggernaut, I should say, was the 2021 X-Men Metal Universe. Yeah. Lots of inserts, lots of base parallels. One thing that I think is really special here that this is such a cool thing that I get to show right here. Let me make sure I have all of them here. So I have the aluminum copy of the Planet Metal. The Planet Metal cards they had were an insert. They had a aluminum, copper, platinum, gold, and they were all numbered low. The aluminum's not numbered. The copper is out of 100, or let's see, what's it out of? Copper was out of 85, platinum was out of 49, and then the golds were out of 15.
25,
no, for the X-Men the Spider-Man it was 25, but for X-Men it was 15.
Gotcha.
So this is the copper PSA 10.
Nice.
Out of 85, excuse me. I submitted a couple copies of the platinum to PSA. I think that the ones that are more silver graded harsher with PSA, which I think is fair too, because you can see a bit more corner wear, things like that show up easier on those cards. but this is the highest graded copy of the platinum card that exists in the world. Across the different grading companies. This is an SGC 10. I haven't really considered cracking this and resubmitting it to PSA. I'm going to kind of evaluate that in the future with see how SGC does. But this is a perfect Gem Mint 10 of this parallel.
Looks really good slabbed. Looks really, really good slabbed.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, I like their style of slabs. It also kind of like fits this card, kind of the silver and black, pretty well. And then I have the out of 15 gold here, PSA 10.
I love that card.
Yeah, this is a great card, man. This is a really, really, really cool insert parallel set.
Something interesting about Juggernaut. Juggernaut's appearance on cards. He's such a large character that he fills the card well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I know that's a weird thing to say, but like, sometimes you see like a great example is a Spider-Gwen character on a card. It's such a thin character that the character takes up so little of the card, where Juggernaut is like over half. It takes up over half of the card. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they came and fit some of the images on the entire cards in some instances. Some of the cards I've got, he's like half of his body or just a headshot.
Which I love those cards that are just a headshot of Juggernaut.
Yeah. The classic Marvel annual there. That's one of the best, just complete headshots of them there. So
case in point, Ryan, I want to ask you if you have one of one you can show us in your collection.
I do. Yeah, I actually have two of those. I can show you them here. Just gonna identify them where they are exactly. I'll start with this one. People will recognize this one probably more easily. This is the 2020 Dave Palumbo Marvel Masterpieces Red Spectrum
Monster card.
Yeah, PSA 8. Yeah, this is the huge card. There's your. I don't know if my camera's gonna be HD enough to show it off, but the one of one is just right here where it says it on the back. I don't know if you'll be able to see that well or not, but there it is. There it is. So that's that card. Yeah, I got kind of lucky with this one. The guy who had this had the preliminary painting and the plates that I've shown already, and we did a package deal for me to be able to pick all that stuff up.
You got the original painting as well for it?
Not the original painting, but the preliminary painting that was a redemption. Yeah. The preliminary redemption painting that was for that set as well. I also have that. And I'll be getting. I have it at the framer. It's going to be hanging up back here near my case here on the side.
I was about to ask to see it, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that when it's framed. Yeah,
absolutely. I'll be posting some photos of it whenever I get it fully framed and stuff. And then the other one. This card is very special to me. I want to say a couple things about it before I show it. It's the crown jewel of my collection. Always will be. And this is the card. To bring us back a little bit to something I said earlier in the story, this card alone is why we are sitting here talking today, you and I. This is the card that made me want to start getting on social media, start joining the Facebook groups, etc. And the reason is because it was to track down this card. This card was on ComC. I saw it. I immediately recognized what comic the card was from. I knew exactly what page in that comic the card was from. It's one of my favorite X-Men comics. It was from X-Men 33. And it's a card with vintage Juggernaut art on it. And I thought that was important for my collection because, I favor the vintage stuff over the modern stuff. Even though I, have dove very, very deep into the modern stuff, the vintage stuff will always have that tie to it for me, for why I'm collecting and, the roots of it, So whenever I saw this card, it was listed for an obscene amount of money on ComC. And I kind of just kept my eye on it for a while. Loved the card, loved the art, loved the way the card looked, excuse me. It was a one of one. And over time, the guy kind of dropped his price. Eventually it got kind of in the range of where I said, okay, you know what? I didn't have the other one of one that I have at that time. And I was like, I'm going to just do this, and I'm just going to buy this one card and then that's going to be it. I'm not going to touch any other modern stuff. And, that was never. I don't know why I even tried to lie to myself that way because that wasn't going to be the case. As soon as I dipped my toe in, I was going to need to be all the way immersed in it. For the way that I want to collect. And maybe in some weird way, I was tricking myself into finding a way to get into the modern stuff. I don't know, but the reason I brought all that up is just to tell a cool story. The card actually went on ComC. And I decided I was going to buy it or put an offer in at the asking price the guy had it listed for because I wanted it. And the card was no longer on ComC the exact day that I was going to go buy it after it had been on there for months. So now that I had made the decision to get the card, it was very, very, very bothering to me to not be able to get it.
Yeah.
Come to find out, I looked the seller up, and I found his name on ComC. Found out that he had found someone with the same account name on Blowout Card forums. Sent him a private message, and 3 months later, I heard back from him.
It's crazy how long it can take on like
Yeah.
ePack or whatever to get a response. You're
Yeah.
killing me. You got to show me this card. Show me this
Okay,
card.
yeah. So this was the 2021 X-Men Metal High Series Purple Juggernaut 1/1
Amazing.
with the vintage art. Here is the 1/1 on the back, there, right in the center. Luckily the guy still had the card, and we were able to work out a deal, and that will, any of the 1/1s, any of the big cards will always be in my collection until I pass away, and that's time for somebody else to have them. But that one was a big moment for my collection. Validated my collection to me. Obviously it would to the world and stuff as well. But that was like the biggest card that I ever would be able to pick up, just because of the fact that it had the vintage artwork on it, and it was a 1/1.
Right on. Thanks for sharing the story and about getting the card. I think that one of the things in modern day character collecting that is incredibly important, and I never met anyone to dispute this, is patience.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And that's something that I kind of struggled with whenever I wanted to start doing the modern stuff. Cause whenever I was diving,
Yeah.
I was picking up stuff left and right. There was big cards out there that I had to get, the green PMGs from that set, out of 10. So yeah, I'm just so happy that it worked out, and I was able to pick that one up. Really shaped.
What we've got you at your desk there right now. Are there any other cards you want to show us from your
Yeah,
desk?
sure. I got a couple other ones. I know some people aren't big into grading. I obviously am very big into grading, but I have a couple of things that you're not really going to see anywhere else here that I can show off. This is from a very, very secretive set that nobody can seem to get their hands on anything of. This is the 2018 Fleer Ultra X-Men out of 25 green PMG Metal Blaster PSA 10.
Wow.
There are only 10. There are only 3 PSA 10s in this Metal Blaster set. This is one of them.
Fantastic. That's a huge card. Love that.
Huge.
Card.
Yeah. This card is, maybe even comparable to a 1/1 in the sense of how high this grade is. This is unheard of, in our hobby. It's insane that this card came back the way that it did.
Nice.
And then this is kind of rare to see, or not really as rare, but this is, the Jambalayas are die cuts. This is the Jambalaya from 2018 Fleer Ultra X-Men PSA 10. With these cards being round like this, it is sometimes hard for them to grade well, but this one sure did.
I've recently come to start appreciating the Jambalayas a lot more.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that the appearance that they've had in, say, Midnight Suns recently, they're a case hit, and when they do come up, they selected some really good characters to put on them. I'm really glad for you that your character appeared on them. I'll never see a Sabretooth on a Jambalaya. It will never happen.
You don't think so? Okay, I didn't even know he wasn't on one, but yeah, I consider Juggernaut and Sabretooth in the same realm of tier of character, though. Do you not? Or
That's such an. I ask a lot of guests this. Before I answer your question, what letter grade would you assign to Juggernaut? As
C or D? C minus probably, if I was being like totally, officially.
Oh,
probably,
I love it.
Go ahead.
To answer your question, I love that. That's really low for what I was expecting you to say.
Okay.
I'm going to give Sabretooth a B character. I'm going to give him a B. Okay. And the reason I'm going to give him a B is because of his continued appearances in the X-Men.
Yeah.
And so Juggernaut, though, does not appear nearly as often as Sabretooth in the X-Men show.
Yeah, no doubt. I do think Sabretooth is a higher tier character than Juggernaut. I do believe that,
Can you speak really quickly about the advantage or disadvantage to collecting a character?
Oh, absolutely. I can.
That is a lower popularity character?
Yeah, you will never be able to see someone do what me and Miles are doing, for example, especially with the grading and stuff that him and I do as well, with a character like Spider-Man, Wolverine. There's a gentleman on Instagram who I think has a pretty extensive Wolverine collection. It's 808 Johnny Bravo or something like that.
I know who you mean.
Yeah, and he has some pretty impressive Wolverine stuff. Most of it's vintage from what I've seen, though. He's got a lot of PSA 10s, things like that. But yeah, Venom, any of those like super A tier characters, I would imagine it would be very challenging to be able to be putting together a master collection, if you will, for those
Right.
characters. So for me, there's not a lot of competition. Most of the other Juggernaut collectors, I know them. I know what they've got.
Yeah.
And there's a gentleman I'm going to shout out real quick. His name's Richard. He's from Australia. He's a friend of mine in the Facebook groups. We've done a lot of back and forth. He collects Juggernaut as well. I'm actually getting ready to send him a big trade. I'm sending him one of the lineage booklets of 5 from Marvel Beginnings for a trade for a card that he's got.
Very cool.
Now that's not to say that I don't have another one lineage booklet of the 5, but I am sending him. I am sending him the one. But yeah, it's quite advantageous for me, without there being like a ton of competition out there, and it's much more affordable. Than
That's right.
that's for my budget, for what I make and things like that, I'm able to do what I want to with my collection, and that's important. It was a perfect fit for me.
This topic's been covered. This topic's been covered by other people about collecting a character that is slightly less popular. But like you mentioned in your origin story, it's not like you went into character collecting and were like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to collect a lower rate character because it'll be easier." Your
Correct.
origin story lines up with I'm going to call it a coincidence that it happened to be easy. Like for myself, I pulled a Sabretooth card and was like, you know what? I guess I'm going to do this. I guess I'm going to go. I didn't like think it out. I've always thought that I was going to collect Sabretooth. There were a couple other characters that I had. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to go, I'm going to go on these ones. But the universe just kind of made it so that Sabretooth was the path of least resistance for me to go.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of that. Like the vast majority of people that I hear talk about this stuff, like their story is similar to the one that you just said. And I think there's nothing, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just as cool of a coincidence for those people as it is, in my situation. I do think that, from my personal meaning and the history behind mine or whatever, it just means a whole lot more to me to have that reason to collect, if that makes sense.
Cool. That's cool. I like that.
But it was, and whenever I take a step back and look at everything from like kind of a bird's eye perspective on it, is like, I think there's a lot of stuff of like, it was meant for me to be doing this. Like I've been able to. Like one of the things when I first started getting into the modern stuff was like, man, like if I want to be a master collector, am I really going to be able to find some of this stuff, now that's been out for 3? And dude, I have been able to find everything, and it's been
great.
so.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, and it's just worked out so well and been so rewarding for me, and I'm very thankful for the people that I've met in the community and stuff like that, to that have helped me out along the way. There's a lot of people I could shout out right now, that helped me a lot. But yeah, I'm super thankful for that.
I think it's always good to be grateful for the members of the community that help out with your collection, because this does not exist in a vacuum.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely does not.
I want to lead into a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
What is your favorite 90s insert? And the reason I ask this is because I love the 90s inserts, but they stand the test of time. They are still making inserts that mirror the 90s. So I'm just wondering, for you personally, what is your favorite Juggernaut insert?
There's 2 of them, but they're the similar style of insert. They are the 90s Hollow Blast holograms.
Love it. So classic 90s, right?
Yeah. This is I'm going to share something a little special about this in a second too, but this is a PSA 10 of this hologram, population 6, very, very rare. The Juggernaut is the hologram part of this card. There is from Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, a similar card of this, but Juggernaut would be taking the place of Deadpool on it, where Venom is the hologram character. I am yet to start working on that one in a PSA 10 because I do think it's going to be a challenge. There is none that exists right now, so I'm going to have to really do my diligence whenever I'm ready to start tackling that card and like evaluating eBay scans very, very thoroughly, like I do.
I love that you have that card as one of your favorites, because I have that card as Gambit versus Sabretooth.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a great card. I don't think there's any prettier inserts, if you will, from the 90s. I think that they did a really good job with those.
Cool.
I think they did interestingly enough, I'm going to lead into this here too. I have been connected with the gentleman who did these holograms.
Okay.
And I will be buying the model of this hologram of Juggernaut pretty soon to frame and put up there with my case.
That's awesome. So you've been getting into, by the sounds of it, a little bit more of the, let's call it the original art.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah.
What are your thoughts on original art? Are you like, why is that important to your character collecting?
Well, so for me with the model, I mean, even though it is original art, I guess you could say like I am more interested in getting it for the history.
Yeah,
Like the role that it played in shaping the foundation of where we are today with the cards.
cool.
That for me, like I'm not viewing that model as a piece of art whenever I'm purchasing it. I'm viewing it as a piece of the history of the cards.
I love that.
But the the original art, I have some interest in. There are some people that I've discussed and talked to about some pieces that I know where they are and stuff. The 1994 Hildebrandt um, original art, I know where that painting is with someone, which is the art for this card right here, 1994 masterpieces.
I love
Um,
the card.
this it's a good card too. I mean, all these vintage cards are just so gorgeous. But and I haven't really tackled that too aggressively yet because I think it will be kind of challenging for those people to give those pieces up. I did inquire about the 2022 Juggernaut Dan Dos Santos. It was already sold by the time that I inquired about it and stuff too. And I'll be honest, like I think Dan Dos Santos art on this masterpieces set is like cream of the crop, if not like if not,
Dan's amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
I want to say I personally think it's the best art that has existed on the sets, just personally.
Yeah.
But I will say this: like the Juggernaut card is unimpressive to me from that collection compared to his
Oh,
other stuff. That's just I have listen. I've got the parallels. I've got everything except the one-on-ones now. I've got every single. I've got the Silver Spectrum autos. Got everything. But I mean, I just do not. Juggernaut's been in two masterpieces, modern masterpieces sets. 2020 Dave Palumbo, and then 2022 Dan Dos Santos. He was also in a Battle Spectra in 2016, but I'm not really counting that because
so
it's a
so
base
you
card.
prefer the Palumbo art over the
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I think the Palumbo art is smashing.
yeah.
It would be hard
You're
for
entitled
me
to have an
to.
opinion on
Yeah,
it
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
don't feel bad. Like, this is
Yeah, no, yeah,
obviously
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like overall, I think that Dan Dos Santos art on the set is much better than Dave Palumbo's. But the Juggernaut art that Palumbo did, it will be so hard for it to get beaten for my personal taste.
you know what I love there are so many bad Sabretooth cards.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
There are so many, there are like skinny versions of Sabretooth where he looks like me in like grade school. And like so like what's your least favorite Juggernaut card?
Least favorite, man. That's a good. This is of any set. This is of any set.
Yeah,
Period.
across the board. And the reason I ask is because Fausto asked me, and like, dude, I had to think about it because there are so many bad ones of my character, and I just want to know what you think about that.
I would say this is the worst one. I'm going to show it here. This is 1994 Marvel Universe. I think this art is garbage. Personally, I think this card just looks bad. The style of these cards from this set just doesn't look good. His facial features, I know you can't really see it that well in this, but he looks almost like from something from Planet of the Apes in the face a little bit.
Gotcha.
Just not a great set of art for this set. That's probably my least favorite one. I did have that one in mind as soon as you said that, so I was lucky that I had it right here in front of me. But yeah, that one sucks.
I love hearing from character collectors about like I love how character collectors are undefensive of the bad cards. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
There's no like everybody. No one's like, yeah, every card is amazing. My character is perfect. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Everyone's
Absolutely.
got a couple where they're like, you know what, this one is not my favorite. But the funny thing about character collecting is that you own it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
an item you
Absolutely.
technically don't like, but it falls in your criteria of
Yeah.
collecting, so you have to have it for that collection, right?
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially with it being a vintage card, that's it was imperative that I got that one in a 10, and I just grumbled my way through it. Like, oh, I don't really want to get this card, but I have to get it. So
You know what? I'm in the exact same boat with mine. There are definitely, it still happens where there are like overpower cards I get where I'm like, I don't even like this card, but it's so
yeah, yeah,
super, so I have to have it
right, yeah,
as
yeah,
part of my collection. As we
yeah.
get wrapped up here, is there one more card you want to show us and give us a chat about?
Sure, yeah. I got one other pretty good one here. This is another one that similar vein as the last green PMG that I showed that was just unheard of. This set didn't grade well. At all, really, across the board. But this is from the 2021 X-Men Metal set as well. This is the red PMG low series PSA 10.
Yeah.
Pop 1. There's only a handful of PMGs that got 10s from this set. I looked it up at one point, knew the number, but I did not see it. But this is a really special card to have graded this high. So it's really, really for reference, like I've graded a couple copies of the high series, and I've not been able to get higher than an 8. So
Yeah.
this is this to come back as a 10 was a big boy. So
Do you have a favorite Juggernaut PMG?
favorite Juggernaut PMG, yeah, I mean, it would be the green high series. I have that one in the case back there as well. It's just the green version of the purple that I have.
Yeah.
Again, that one would be my favorite just because of the vintage art. It has the same image on it. So yeah, that one would be my favorite. I have that one in the highest grade possible that they have that exists in a PSA 9.
Nice.
So
my favorite Sabretooth PMG is the 2015 PMG. I think that Sabretooth looks just killer.
Do you have the what do you have, the blue, red? What do you have?
I have the red and the blue, and
okay.
On the hunt for the greens. I don't own a single green PMG yet. I am still on the hunt for those.
Yeah, they're tough, dude. They're tough.
They're definitely tough. And I've worked my collection from the ground up instead of the top down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm just the opposite. That's that, and I think that's. I don't know which way's better. I don't know what is the smarter way to go about it. I've thought about that a lot because, like, as I was getting ready to approach the modern set, I really took a lot of that into consideration. Like, how do I want to go about doing this? Because there's a lot of stuff that I would need to kind of catch up on, if you will.
Well, given that I don't have any one-of-ones and I don't have any green PMGs, I'm going to make the case and point here that your method is more effective than the method that I'm doing.
Fair enough.
Just on results, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
Is the better one.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But yeah, I'm very blessed. I'm very thankful that things have aligned the way that they have for me for all this stuff to work out. So
Ryan, can you remind everybody, if they want to see more of your collection, where's the best place to do it?
Best place to see me is or if you want to see my collection itself, my Instagram page. I only feature my cards. I don't have all my cards on there. I only try to post like kind of the bigger stuff so it doesn't get convoluted and just a bunch of stuff people. But as I get more stuff back in the future, I have this constant conveyor belt. Sorry, I don't mean to ramble, but I have a constant conveyor belt of cards out getting graded that are coming back to me because I'm trying to like wrap up. So the vintage stuff, a few of the modern cards that I don't have in good grades. But yeah, my Instagram is @supersized which is a play off of the Garbage Pail Kids Juggernaut Marvel card that they had.
Love it.
Yeah,
I'll include your Instagram in the description of this video. So anyone who's interested in following you, there'll be a link down there. You can just click.
Perfect. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm also in Discords, just Ryan Beckner, and then in Facebook, in the Facebook groups, if you're a person that participates in the Facebook groups, just Ryan Beckner. Always happy to hear if you have something that you think that would interest me. I'm happy to pay, good pricing for cards that I'm missing. There's not a lot that I don't have, but if you have something that I would be looking for, I would be very interested in talking to you.
I think there's to close this out. There's a point that you brought up that I want to just touch on again. And that's that you've been participating with social media and videos such as mine with making content because being out there makes it a lot easier for people to find those cards to get to you.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a gray area, or at least a bit of a juxtaposition from the feedback that I've received. There's a lot of people out there that are looking for certain things that don't want people to know they're looking for them because they don't want to pay a premium for them and stuff like that. Whereas for me, as close as I am to my goals, for me not being far away at all from like kind of like having like a really as complete as you could say, minus a few one-of-ones master collection. I'm more interested in getting that done than I am worried about like what I'm having to pay.
Right on. So I want to encourage other people too. Like if you're on the fence out there and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I should post my collection on Instagram. I've been posting my entire Sabretooth collection out there. It's been so much fun because people message who are collecting in a very similar way to you. I've learned so much from other collectors that it's changed my collection. And I'd like to encourage you guys to show us your collection because I love seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the exact same way. I love looking at people's collections, seeing what they have. I have a soft point for people that are doing stuff similar to myself, yourself, Miles, Sketch Card Hive. There's a few people out there that are as like, if you want to talk about the tiers of character collectors that there are out there. I love seeing people that are like trying to do the same thing that I'm doing or have the same goals as me. I love connecting with those people. I love talking to them, bouncing ideas off of them, figuring out different ways of where you can find stuff, etc. So yeah, if you have stuff, definitely show it off. I would love to see it.
Absolutely. Guys, thanks so much for tuning into this. If you enjoyed this kind of content, if you enjoyed this conversation, please like this video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. We're trying to grow. We're trying to do lots of stuff here. Appreciate all of you. And Ryan, mainly appreciate you coming on and sharing your collection.
Absolutely, man. We'll do it again sometime.
Sounds great, buddy. Everybody take care of yourselves. Be safe. Peace, love, and road hockey, everyone. See you later.